Hi guys, welcome back to your coding buddy. In this lecture, we are going to start with HTML. Now, you all might have heard about HTML. If you have not, if you are a complete beginner, then honestly, this is one of the easiest languages ever. You are going to be a pro in it in no time, literally no time. In fact, after today's lecture, you'll be able to make a very basic web page with headings and text, etc. So, before diving into HTML, let's just understand what's the use of HTML. So, for any web page, we need three components. We need the structure of that web page. We need the content of that web page, right? Then, if we want to make our web page more appealing, visually appealing, we need to add beauty to it. And then we also need logic. Basically, if I'm pressing this button, then this should happen. If I'm typing this, then this should happen. If I'm giving this input, then this should happen. So I need the logic in that website. This together makes a good web page, right? So now structure plus content. This is done by HTML. Beauty is done by CSS and logic is done by JS. What's HTML? The full form of HTML is Hypertext Markup Language. The full form of CSS is Cascading Style Sheet. The full form of JS is JavaScript. So, structure plus content, HTML, beauty, CSS, logic, JavaScript. So basically, to add beauty to a web page, we first need to have a web page. We should have its structure, we should have its content. Only then we can add beauty. Again, to add logic, we must have a web page, right? So what's most important is to have a web page, because without it, where will I add the beauty to? Where will I add the logic to, right? So I definitely need a web page. So the content of the web page is basically done by HTML, or the structure of the web page, you can say. So hypertext markup language. Now that we are familiar with what's HTML, why we need HTML, we can dive into learning about HTML. So any HTML code will always start with the HTML tag itself. HTML is basically the root tag. What is a tag now? All these questions might be popping, and we'll get into it in great detail one by one. Before that, we have already learned that HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is used to create web pages. It describes the structure of a web page. It consists of a series of elements. Again, what are elements? We'll discuss it in just a bit. So, before discussing elements, tags, etc., let's look at a very basic HTML code. So first we write doctype HTML. Doctype is basically a declaration which is used to declare our document. In this case, doctype HTML specifies that we are using HTML5 document. This is doing nothing but informing the browser that this is an HTML5 document to prevent any unfortunate basically code running or unfortunate errors. So doctype HTML is just a declaration, nothing else. So this is the first line you have to write as soon as you start writing your code, just to make the web browser aware that you are using HTML5. So this is just a declaration that informing the browser what we are using, what we are coding in. So this is clear. Now let's move on to the next line. The next line is HTML itself. As we discussed that HTML document has to start with the HTML tag itself. Now what is a tag? All the content in HTML comes under some tag, okay? So HTML tag is basically the root tag, right? It is the root tag. Now there are two different types of tags. One is, let's say, close tag, and the other one is an empty tag. Now usually a tag contains opening, and closing both. For example, my HTML document is always going to start with the HTML tag and is always going to end with /HTML tag. Tag is written in angular brackets always. So since we are writing HTML itself is its first tag. Okay, it is the root element as we discussed. Then we bring head. Now head is basically meta information of the web page, the information that won't exactly be displayed on the web page itself. For example, title. Now title is not displayed on the web page itself, right? So the title of the web page will come under head, and again title /title and then /head. Then we have body tag. Any content of the web page that is visible comes under the body tag. This includes all the headings, this includes all the text, all the paragraphs, all the images, all the links, everything. All these things that are visible to me on the web page, that will be visible to me on my website, all these things will come under the body tag, and then we'll close the body tag, and then finally we'll close the HTML tag. So this is the basic HTML code. By writing this, we have now created a web page. Now those of you who are familiar with this channel know that in the first video we try to always focus on the concept, and in the following videos we discuss the code. In the following videos we discuss about the how to run the code and how it will execute and all that. So in this video just focus on the concept, don't focus on running the code, or don't focus on what will be the output of this. But now understand, since I've written this, I'll have a basic web page with me. Okay, if you want to try, you are free to try, but first let's focus on the concept itself. Now we are using the term element a lot. What exactly is an element? Element is basically a tag, start tag, then some content, and then the closing tag. These three things combine to make element. So this is an element. For example, to write, let's say if we want to write a paragraph, if we want to write a paragraph, we use p tag, then we write the content, and then we write /p. This is the start tag. So to write any paragraph, we have to start it using paragraph, p tag, and then we have to end it. Most of the tags that we are going to study, they do have a closing tag as well. There are very few empty tags, and whatever tags are empty tags, I'll specify it when we are studying those tags. But for now, let's just focus on let's just understand that all the tags almost have a closing tag. So p, it has a closing tag, it has a starting tag, and the content. For example, let's say this is a paragraph. Together these three things, they will create a element. So moving on, if you want to write your code, basically where can you write a code? Now in Windows you can use Notepad, in MacBook you can use TextEdit, or you can always use an online compiler if you want. And one of the best online compilers I prefer always is Replit, and there's an application known as VS Code, Visual Studio Code. Those who are new to Studio Code, those who are new to coding, this is basically an application where you can perform all the programming languages. You can code all the programming languages, and you can install it if you want. There might be a tutorial if you want. I'll upload a tutorial on how to install Visual Studio Code, so you can use that also. In that you need to create a document. HTML documents are always saved with .html extension to run as an HTML document in the web browser. For those who are doing in all these apps, right click and open with Google Chrome. Those who are new to coding, right click and then open with Google Chrome or whatever your web browser is, so that you see the output. If you are going to open with Notepad, TextEdit, not online compiler, but yeah, Notepad, TextEdit, etc., you are going to get the code itself. But if you open with your web browser, you are gonna get the output. Moving on, so let's start with the basics. Now we have discussed the doc type declaration. We have discussed that HTML document itself begins with the HTML tag and ends with the HTML tag. The visible part is between the body start and body close tag. Now let's discuss about headings. If I want to write a heading in my HTML document, what exactly is a heading? So heading is basically title or subtitle. We are just discussing what we mean by the word heading. Title or subtitle that we want in our web page. Forget everything. Just now we want to write a heading. What is a heading? A title or a subtitle? So in HTML, basically HTML offers us 6 different sizes of headings. But the sizes are not the only thing that is the difference in them. H1 is considered the most important heading. It is the largest too, and H6 is of the least importance. So till basically you have all these H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. The size decreases as we go from H1 to H6 and so on. Okay, so now browsers will automatically add some white space before and after a heading. So basically, if my heading is welcome, this is the space it will cover, right? But sorry, if this is a text, but if it's a heading, automatically some white space will be added. Then it will cover this much space. So automatically some white space before and after will be added if it's a heading. Now, search engines use headings to basically index the structure and content. So some of you might be aware with this term SEO, that is search engine optimization. So search engine optimization basically, in easy words, it describes the ranking of our page. Whenever I search something, there are many websites that appear, right? But some appear on the top, some appear further in the search history. So what is the difference between these types of headings, web pages? It's all because of SEO. If your SEO ranking is good, then your web page will appear on the top. Headings usually affect this SEO ranking because these search engines use the headings to understand the structure, to understand the content of your web page. And that's why, while headings will make your text bold and big, you should not use them just to make your text bold and big. You should strictly use headings for headings purpose only. So basically, use a heading only when it's actually a heading. If you want to make your text bold, if you want to make your text bigger, use the paragraph tag and style it. How we can do this, we'll discuss it later. But understand that headings must be used for headings only. Also, another reason why headings are important is because users. Now, users usually, I myself, in my college days, I usually used to skim the pages by reading only the headings. The entire PDF, we would just read the headings and then make our own stories in the paper for the rest of the answer. So headings are very important. Users skim the pages using headings itself. So that's why headings in a document structure are important. Now, H1 should strictly be used for main headings only. Even when you are writing a subtitle and you want it to be comparatively bigger, you should not use H1 for that. You should use H2, and then you can style it using the style attribute. We'll discuss it in later classes, don't worry about it. But basically, you can change the size of everything. So even if you want to change the size of H6, you can. So if you're writing H6, you can make it larger than H1. So don't use headings for styling purposes. Use headings for important text. This is very important. Then moving on, each HTML heading has a default size. But however, we can change the sizing using the style attribute like we just discussed. So next, let's come to the paragraph tag. Now what is the basically paragraph is any text or a block of text, a line or a block of text. Now each paragraph will always start with a new line. If I use p, then block of text, then /p, then p, each of these will start with a new line. However, let's say that I am writing a poem, a very short poem. Roses are red, violets are blue. This is the poem, and I've written it like this. However, it's in one paragraph only. Now, the output of this will be roses are red, violets are blue. Basically, it will return it in a single line because it is under the same paragraph. No matter how many spaces we add, it will return in a single line. Now, we can use two paragraph tags and then we'll get this as the output. But instead of that, there's your first introduction to an empty tag, which is the BR tag. BR tag is basically used for line break. It is an empty tag. It does not have a closing tag and it does not have any content in it. So it is an empty tag. Now what does BR do? If I still put it under the same paragraph, I just write a BR after this line. Then it will give me the output as this only. Roses are red, and then in the next line violets are blue. If I write 2BR here, then it will leave a line space here also. If I write 3BR, then it will leave 2 line spaces here, and so on. So I can add as many BR tags I want. I can add as many paragraph tags I want. I can add as many heading tags I want. It's all on us. So this is basically how we use the paragraph tag and BR tag. Now, as we said that you can write as many paragraphs you want. So paragraph always starts with a new line. Yeah, we have discussed this. Now, we can not necessarily be sure of how our HTML will be displayed. For example, if I'm seeing on my laptop, if I'm viewing the document on my laptop, it might be different. If I'm viewing the document on my phone, it might be different. So, as we discussed, with HTML, we cannot add extra spaces or extra lines. No matter how many spaces I add here, it won't show spaces. It will remove any extra spaces and lines which are viewed in the paragraph. Even if I write basically like this, roses space 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 are space 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 is red, it will still display it as roses are. It will remove any extra space, it will remove any extra lines itself. For lines we can use the BR tag as we discussed. Now, just like a BR tag, we also have an HR tag, which is another empty tag. What's the use of HR tag? Now, BR is used for line breaking, but HR is used to add a horizontal line wherever I add the text. For example, here in the example only, if instead of BR I add HR, then the output will be, let's see here, roses are red, then horizontal line, and then in the next line violets are blue. Am I writing this poem correct? recruiters are here. I don't know. But anyways, you understood the point. So yeah, this is the use of HR tag. Then now, what if I'm writing an entire poem, which is a long poem, right? It is of 10 lines. I'm writing an entire poem. So do I need to add BR as it is, like after every line, right? That's very time consuming. So instead, there's a tag in HTML known as pre tag, which is basically paragraph tag only. We have to close it, we have to write the content, and the content has to be a paragraph. It will be displayed like the paragraph. So what's the difference between P and pre? The difference between both these tags is that if I write a poem in pre tag, it will display as it is. Now here, if I write roses are red, like this, if I write, then in two different lines, then it will display in two different lines. So basically, pre element is displayed in fixed width font. Width font, and it preserves both spaces and line breaks. So this is the solution if we want spaces, if we want line breaks in our paragraph as it is. So this is the difference between P and pre tag. So I hope you are clear with this. Then moving on to one more tag which we are going to discuss, which is the image tag. Before that, let's discuss the link tag. So if I want to add links to my HTML page, then how can I do that? You might have seen many websites. Now if you go to whatever website you want, there might be a link on that page sometimes. So or if you see, there's this website for coding which is very famous, W3 Schools. I myself use this for reference. So if you see this website, W3 Schools, there's a link for YouTube videos on it, right? So in any web page, there might be a link. In a web page, there might be a link. How do we add that link? For link, we have the A tag. Now if I'm adding the A tag, I'm writing the content here. For example, this is a link. So what will be the output? The output will be firstly in blue color. Usually the links are in blue color. This is a link and it will be underlined. Now using one of the attributes that we are going to learn in further class, we will be able to remove this underline. We'll be able to change the color of the link, but this is by default. Okay, so this is what it will look like. Now when I click on this, nothing will happen. Why? Because nowhere have I specified where will this link take me. This is being viewed as a link. It can be clicked on, but when you click on it, nothing will happen. Why? Because there's no address anywhere, there's no URL anywhere. Where do I go after clicking it, right? So the solution to this is basically you use an attribute. What is an attribute? Attribute basically specifies more information about our tags. So href is an attribute of the link tag. Href. In double quotes, we are going to write the URL of the page. For example, let's say www.google.com. Then we are going to write, this is a link, and then we are going to write /a. Now when I click on this is a link, it will open google.com because now I have specified the URL. href is the attribute. What exactly are attributes? They basically help us specify more information about the web page. The syntax for writing the attribute, you can say, is name is equal to value. the name of the attribute, for example href in this case, is equal to double quotes and the value of the attribute. Now another thing, attributes are always used in starting tags. As you saw in this example, we used attribute in the opening tag, not in the closing tag, right? So this is where we write all the attributes. We can use n number of attributes, like there are a lot of attributes for every tag. So now let's just focus on this. Is it necessary to use double quotes? No. We can use single quotes, we can use no quotes, but it is recommended to write like this. So there's one attribute known as title. What does title do? Basically, let's say I have a paragraph, then I want to assign, let's understand it here. I have a paragraph, I want to assign a title to it. What will it do? We'll discuss in just a minute. This is a title, okay? And then the paragraph content, which is hi, and then /p. So this will give us hi. When the mouse is on this hi, only when the mouse is on this hi, it will display a title saying this is a title because of the title attribute. Now title is a tag, as we saw. In head we enter title, but title is also an attribute. We can use it for headings, images, paragraphs, whatever we want. Title is a attribute, can be used as an attribute. And when will it occur? Only when the mouse is on high, only then will it show me a title saying this is a title. So what if I want title in double quotes itself? Then I can use single quotes, this is a title, and then I can write title in double quotes and the rest of the value in single quotes. Or vice versa, if I want title in single quotes and I can write the remaining value in double quotes. I can also use no quotes, but it's not recommended. So this is about attributes. Now moving on to another tag, that is the img tag. Any guess as to what it might do? As the name suggests, yeah, it helps us display images. It helps us add images to our web page. How can we add it? So likewise, similar to links, basically, like we had to add link, we used href to enter its url. For image, we use a tag known as attribute known as src, and then we enter the url here, and then there's another attribute for img tag, that is alt. Alt basically helps us to display a text. We will write a text in this value. Here it will be a URL, here it will be a text, preferably a text that describes the image. What is the purpose of alt? src, we understood that it is providing the URL. Without this we cannot get the URL of the picture. We don't know which picture to show, right? But what does alt do? Why are we writing text in alt? Now, for some unavoidable reasons, say the network is very slow or the picture has been deleted, for any reason, there's no picture being, basically the picture cannot be shown in the web page. Then you can write an alternative text to be shown instead of blank space. So we'll basically write whatever text we want to be displayed, because if we don't write alt, what will happen? We have left space for the picture in our web page. This picture cannot be displayed. Why? Because it has been deleted. Or let's say the user's network is very slow. Then meanwhile it's been loading, we can add a text saying this is an image of a girl, for example. So we can add this text and this text will be displayed instead of the image itself. There are another attributes of img tag, that is height and width. We can decide the height and width of our picture. This is set in pixels, so let's say height 500 pixels and weight 500 pixels, width width 500 pixels. So height and width are another attribute of IMG tags. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is HTML elements. As we discussed, elements basically is tag name, opening tag name, then content, and then closing tag name. So h1 heading slash h1, this is an element. P slash p and content here, this is an element. Similarly, BR, now it has no content and no ending tag. This is known as empty element. We have discussed this already. Now, what are nested HTML elements? Don't be scared. We have already discussed this. You'll realize it very soon. It's one of the most easiest topics, and you are already aware of it. We have already tried it. As we discussed, each HTML document starts with the HTML tag, right? It's starting with the HTML tag. Then we write head. As you can see, there's some space here. This space can be known as indentation. Okay. So there's some indentation here. Basically, HTML is the root tag. Without HTML, I cannot write head, right? And without head, I cannot write title. This is wrong. So head basically comes under HTML, and then title comes under head. So this cycle here, this is basically nested. Nested simply means something within something. So HTML, then within that head, then within that title. Similarly comes the concept for body. HTML, now I don't necessarily have to write a title. I don't necessarily have to write head tag. I can straight up write body tag and straight up write heading tag. Body tag comes under HTML and then heading tag comes under body tag. So this is the concept of nested HTML elements. As we discussed that we have, as you can see, you have already done that. Right, now moving on to the next question. You should never, next topic, but before that you should never skip the end tag. While the code may run without writing the end tag, but it is not recommended as a good programmer. Moving on, empty HTML elements we have already discussed. Another thing, HTML is not case sensitive. It's not case sensitive, which means P in capital means the same as P in small. These two are the same things. It's not case sensitive. Okay, case sensitive basically means a language where lowercase and uppercase are different. Some of the languages we are going to study are going to be case sensitive, but HTML is not. So in many languages, for example Java, right now I'm explaining on my channel. If you want to learn Java, you can go view that playlist. But let's understand, Java is a case sensitive language. If I write P in Java, that means something else. If I declare a variable, let's say P is equal to 5, and then I declare capital P is equal to 10, this will work in Java. But in HTML, these both are the same thing. Lowercase and uppercase is the same thing, and that's why we say it's not case sensitive. Case sensitive means lowercase and uppercase are both basically different things. Now another main topic, we have already discussed this topic, attributes. We have discussed what are attributes, and we have discussed their basic syntax, but let's just understand them once more in detail, because this is an important topic. This is the base of HTML, so we need to be clear with it. I explained it while explaining certain attributes because I felt there was a need to explain them, but we are still gonna take a look at it again. So attributes usually come in name and value pairs, which means name is equal to value. We discussed this, right? We have discussed single quotes, double quotes, etc. We have discussed that href, which specifies the URL, is basically an attribute of a tag. A is link tag. Similarly, src is basically an attribute of image tag, img tag. Img specifies for image. Now, width and height attributes are something we have also discussed. Alt attribute, we have discussed it. Let's discuss about another nice attribute, style. Now, while we use CSS for styling, we can add some basic styling using HTML itself. For example, if I'm writing a heading, and we discussed that all the attributes come in the start tag, right? So if we are writing a heading, I'll say style. Let's say I want the color to be red. So I write style. This is the name of the attribute. Then I write equal to and then the value, right? But here we have two values. Firstly, I'm setting the color. Then to what am I setting the color, right? So we are going to write like this, color setting to red. And then semicolon if I want to mention something else. For example, font or background color, etc. But right now I don't, so I'll just close the tab. Now this heading will come in red color. Similarly, we can add a lot of features. We can change the font, we can change the size, we can do a lot of things. Moving on to the style attribute can be used with images, we can use it with uh, paragraphs, we can use it with heading. We can style attribute is basically, as the name suggests, it's responsible for styling. Now another attribute is title attribute. We have already discussed what it does. It basically helps you change the title. It basically helps you view a title when your mouse is on that text, not change a title, so sorry. But basically, if you have a text here, for example, this is a para, and in the paragraph tagged I specify the title as title, then when my mouse is here, only and only when my mouse is here, it will show a pop-up like title. So this is all about the title attribute. We have already discussed single, double quotes, no quotes. We have already discussed all of these things. I hope you remember. Then we have discussed the heading tags in detail, so I hope that it's clear to you what are headings, how to use headings. H1 is the biggest heading and the most important heading. H6 is the smallest heading and the least important headings. We can change the various attributes of headings like sizing, color, etc. using the style attribute. Then we have discussed about paragraphs, which says the p tag defines the p tag defines the paragraphs. Any text, basically a block of code or a line of code within these tags, is gonna be a paragraph. Now we have discussed about spaces, we have discussed about line breaks, we have discussed about pre-element as well. So this is mostly all about headings and paragraphs. Now we are quite clear with the headings and the paragraphs concept. So with this comes the end of lecture 1. So I hope now you can make a basic web page with at least one heading and a few paragraphs. I'm soon gonna upload a community post, which will be basically worksheet for lecture 1, in which there are just 10 questions which can be done very easily. I have it prepared, it's here, and as you can see, I have it prepared. I'm gonna upload it in the community section so that you all can access it easily. If that doesn't work, comment down, then from the next video I'll upload the worksheets in a Google Drive link. So for now, this is a worksheet and it's very easy, you can easily do it. We have discussed all these things in the lecture. If you get stuck somewhere, just view the lecture again. I'm gonna upload this worksheet in the community post, don't worry, right after this lecture. So by the time you are viewing this, it's already been uploaded. So just solve it before the next lecture. We are gonna discuss the answers, we are gonna do the code. Those who are aware of this channel already, or those who are following my Java series, they know that first we discuss a few concepts, 4-5 concepts, 4-5 lecture videos, and after that in the Java also I have started a 500 plus questions series. Right now we are on the first part of that series, which is 100 plus questions based on just very few topics, which is basically 1/3 of Java. Only 100 questions based on only 1/3 of Java. So that's how we are going to practice and these 100 questions are divided in basic, inter and advanced level. The same we are going to do for HTML. We are going to practice in the 100 plus question series. We are going to practice writing a heading, and from that we might make a clone of Amazon. This is the level I'm talking about, beginner to advanced. We are going to cover all that in 500 plus questions. While that comes, still practice is important, so you can practice these 10 questions. I'll upload it in the community post, and see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.